Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Power Nap Live. Listen, I almost canceled this live today, okay? I really did. Not because I don't care, obviously, and not because I didn't have something to say, but because I am sore. I'm tired coming off of a medical procedure. And so I really was going back and forth with myself on the couch while I'm propped up. Um, Trying to decide whether or not I wanted to cancel or not. And then I realized that this actually might be the most on brand episode of Power Nap Live that I could actually do, right? So let's talk about it, and we'll talk about it right after this. Power Nap Live. Power Nap. Power Nap Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My folks already see people dropping their names and where they're streaming from in the chat. If you have not already done that, please make sure that you do it. If you're watching on Facebook, come on over to YouTube. That's where the fun is happening. And you can see all the comments because folks be going wild in the comments. We always have a good time there. But listen, I almost canceled. I almost stayed on the couch today because I am not feeling my best, right? But I remembered as I was doing that this space was not created for perfect energy. It wasn't just created for positive or a polished thoughts or just for my high performance days. It was really created so that I could make sure that we understand what intentional leadership looks like in real life. So today, this is not a hype episode, but don't you log off yet. It's not going to be a long episode. So stay in there with me. But it really is going to be a real life example of what strategic rest really looks like. So the first thing I wanted to talk to us about today, because I am talking to myself too when I do this show. It's not just for you all. It really is to remind myself of the importance of strategic rest. The first thing that I thought of as I was like, ooh, how do I show up today? Was that rest doesn't always mean stopping. We've gotten it into our mind that rest means that we need to stop everything, right? And that's just not the truth. That's why we wrote Strategic Rest. Dr. Kelly Dixon and myself really started to think about the concept that rest isn't just sleep and it's not dropping every commitment that you have. We've been taught that rest means that you step away from something completely, that you just cancel the meeting or you cancel the commitment that you made to people, or sometimes folks cancel themselves. Right? And that's not what it is. That's not always true. Now, I'm not saying I'm not good for a good, I ain't gonna be there. Okay? Because I'm good for a no thank you. All right. See you on the next one. But what I am saying is that sometimes rest, while it can be canceling, sometimes in the times like this is when it's all about doing something differently. Right? It's about still showing up, but maybe with lower energy. And that's okay. It's still showing up, maybe for a shorter amount of time, maybe gentler. Okay. I ain't moving as much as I typically do. Right. But in all of that, it's showing up still aligned. Okay. Rest is not always about stepping away. Sometimes it's just about stepping in differently. Another thing I thought about as I was on the couch, okay, thinking about whether or not I was going to get up, put this white robe on, okay. I've also been watching rewatching Scandal. And so I thought about the white hat, right? So my white robe was my white hat in this situation. But I also thought about how leaders often confuse capacity with commitment. I'm going to say that again. Leaders often confuse capacity with commitment. One of the largest. Okay, that's one of my. I love Big X the Plug. That's so crazy, but I really do. Shout out to him. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but that song, I love it so much. But whatever the case is, one of the biggest lies that leaders have ever told themselves is that if they can't give 100%, that they just shouldn't show up at all. And that's not the case. Capacity changes, but commitment does not. My capacity to show up today at 100%, right? Moving around, dancing, giving you a little shoulder action. Let me stop. The capacity for that changed today, but my commitment did not. And leadership is all about that. If we only show up when we feel our best, then we start to train ourselves to disappear during the hard seasons of our life. Low capacity does not mean low commitment. We've got to remember that. We've also got to make sure that the people who work with us, around us, understand that that's the case. One of the most important lessons I learned from a good friend of mine, shout out Dr. Whitney Boyd if she watches this, is that she will call me out on my thinking around something having to look a certain way, right? So now, one of the things that I do in my business is literally public speaking, right? Or speaking engagements. People hire me to come and talk about fantastic topics, right? Like how you don't have to be brave to be bold, or they ask me to talk about strategic rest, or they ask me to talk about relationship intelligence. One of my favorite sessions that I'll be doing quite a bit in 2026 is talking to people about how to unlock their unique strengths and using them for impact, right? But when I started my journey, I did not want to do keynote speeches at all. I didn't. People would ask, do you want to do a keynote? And I'd be like, absolutely not. I don't want to stand up there and talk to people for 45 minutes. That's not fun for me. I love workshops. I don't want to do that. And one day I was sitting there talking with Whitney, and she said, why does your keynote have to look like you standing there talking for 45 minutes? And I looked at her like I have done many times when she changes, when she kind of pops me, right, without popping me, because my brain literally said to myself, why am I saying that it only can be that way? And now people literally hire me because my keynotes are engaging. Even though I'm on the stage, it feels like a workshop that people are getting the opportunity to ask themselves questions, to actually learn and not just listen to me as a thought leader, but to really look at themselves and to find pieces in themselves. So oftentimes we have to understand that not only does it not look like low commitment, right? It can also not have to look the way that it's looked for everybody else. That's a word right there. If you just move that over to your life, that your life does not have to look like everybody else's. Success does not look the same way for everyone. And that we may have to push ourselves to find a new way, a different way of being to still be able to show up for our commitment, right? And the last thing that I thought about is that honoring your body, honoring my body, honoring your body is not a leadership failure. Listen, I want to say this clearly. Listening to your body is not quitting. It's not. It's not a weakness. It's not lack of discipline, as people like to paint it as. It is information. Some of the most successful leaders that I know pay attention to the data, right? My dad watches this show, and I love that. He always gives me feedback every week he watches. It's so funny because my mom watches and goes, "Oh, that you did the show," and my dad goes, "Let me tell you some data, right? Let me give you some information about the show." But the strongest leaders I know, and he's one of them, right, always pays attention to the data, especially the data that your body's given to you. That's literally information. So why would you listen to data in other spaces but not listen to literally the data that your body's given to you? Okay? Listening to your body is a leadership skill. It's not a weakness. So I knew today, coming here and doing all the things that I typically do, even though some people may go, girl, you still coming with the hard energy, right? I knew that that had to be different today, but it had to happen. But I listened to the data that my body was telling me, right? So this, y'all, this is literally when I wrote the book, this is what I wanted people to understand about strategic rest. This is what the NAP framework looks like. If you're not familiar with the book I'm talking about, it's a book that Dr. Kelly Dixon and myself wrote together called Strategic Rest in Leadership, where we literally name the NAP framework in order to help you be able to be a practitioner of strategic rest. Okay. So this is exactly what the NAP framework looks like in real life. Nurture. I'm literally taking care of my body, right, in this situation. The next step is assess. I checked my energy honestly and asked myself, is this something that you could do today? And I said, even though I'm going to show up, right? Even though I'm going to show up because I'm committed, I understand the capacity I have to give in this. And finally, in that, prioritize, right? So nurture, assess, prioritize. And I chose connection over perfection. This is not going to be a perfect show. My mic is in the way. If that makes sense. And that makes me so annoyed because I wanted a clean look, right? The description for the show may not look perfect. I may not look perfect, okay? Because my hair definitely isn't doing what I wanted it to do. But I chose connection with each of you today over perfection. And that's exactly what prioritize in the NAP framework is all about. So if you're watching this today and you're thinking, I need to cancel everything, right? Until I feel better. I need to walk away from the stuff that I have. I want you to take a moment to pause. I want you to ask yourself a question instead, okay? As you're pausing, what would it look like to show up differently and not disappear? What would it look like to just show up differently and to not disappear? That's the question I want you to ask yourself today. That's the question I ask myself from the couch. That's the question I ask myself as I put my robe on slowly and gingerly and ask my husband to help me push my hair to the front. Okay, that's what I ask myself as I put on a little red lipstick because that always makes me feel better. I ask myself, what would it look like for me to show up differently and to not disappear today? You don't have to disappear to take care of yourself. Okay. I know that people have said that that's the case, but it's not. That's what strategic rest is all about, that you do not have to disappear to take care of yourself. Showing up gently counts just as much as that 100%. Showing up gently counts, folks. And if nothing else, I want us to remember that today. All right, listen, that is Power Nap Live today, okay? Next week is Christmas. So I probably will not be doing an episode next week. We'll see, but for sure I probably will not. But that means that I will for sure see you in the new year, same time, same place. But we may think about changing the time a little bit when it comes to next year, but I'll let you know in 2026 for sure, so we can always make sure that we catch up. So until then, make sure that you make good decisions, rest like you mean it, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.